Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spiritual Real Talk with Dr. Alexis. And I am Dr. Alexis. Thanks for being here and watching with me today. I wanted to talk about, in this first episode of our show, I wanted to talk about the many faces of spirituality. The word as a whole, being spiritual, is used a lot these days, right? And I've come to realize that it means a lot of different things for a lot of different people. And I wanted to discuss that. And oftentimes where we feel something in our heart and we feel compelled to follow something, to follow our path, to follow our heart, with all the little hearts coming up. And I really feel like it's deeper for a lot of people. So I wanted to talk about that. So being spiritual for me is about connecting to something bigger than ourselves, but also for me it's talking about the unseen. And I've noticed that oftentimes a spiritual journey or a spiritual path, or just a person saying they're spiritual or following spirituality, what it means oftentimes is, what I found is that someone who doesn't want to follow any specific religion, but feels like there's something bigger than themselves, perhaps, whatever that is. Often it also is kind of, there's a crossing with self-help and self-development. And so people will look for tools, oftentimes, things outside of ourselves, to sort of follow that spiritual path, to sort of connect to something bigger. But there's also spiritual bypassing, which basically what that means is talking about connecting to spirituality and connecting to things that are external from us, so that we don't actually have to deal with the work and deal with the stuff internally. For me, within my practice and the way that I do things, spirituality and being spiritual and being a spiritual worker has a lot of layers and complexity and depth. So for me, it has to do with dealing with the unseen, focusing on the unseen. There's a big aspect of, there's so much that we don't see. And in society as a whole, especially Western culture, there's this idea that if we don't see it, it's not real. And I find that spiritual workers and spirituality is about going into that space. And really diving deep in there. It means, like I said, it's going to mean different things for everybody. And for those of you if you want to come on and talk with me, if you have any kind of input on this, what does it mean to you all? Hi. So there's also what I've seen a lot of is people talking about the woo and the spiritual and all of this crazy type of stuff, and what this stuff means, and make believe and pretend and all of that sort of thing. And then I see a lot of people talking about being spiritual and putting out there that they're working in a spiritual practice with other people, and then retract those statements. And that's really interesting to me. I think a spiritual path is about authenticity. I think that it's about connecting to oneself and connecting to something bigger than us. And a lot of that is done internally. To me, spiritual work kind of encompasses all sorts of realms. So it is going to encompass spirits, and it's going to encompass ancestors, and it's going to encompass our spiritual soup and melting pot. It's going to encompass using tools sometimes to get deeper in that, to get guidance of the unseen. It's accessing that sixth sense, which we all have, and also going deeper. For some of us, there's a statistic that says about 20% of the population is more sensitive than others, and 20% is a good chunk to me. It is a good chunk. There's a lot of people out there that, because of how we live and how disconnected we are from the earth and from nature and from ourselves, we don't really notice what's happening. So we're seeking this deeper kind of connection. And in doing so, it's figuring out what that means for us. Yeah. So Lindsay's saying to her it's connecting with spirit, with the spiritual realm, and to help guide and influence her path and purpose, and to help others along the way. Absolutely. I think that, we all can have an individual spiritual path, and it is about yeah, whatever we heal within ourselves, we can heal. It helps the collective, right? And I think that a lot of the spiritual path is about that, but different than in a self-help kind of way. Um, it's about integration of the mind, body, spirit, um, emotion, soul, heart, all of that, an integration of wholeness, right? And I definitely feel really strongly like what Lindsay said, that it's about tapping into that spiritual realm. And I think that that's where I like for there to be a noted difference, because there are people, to me, that's what it's about. When somebody talks about spirituality, I'm assuming a certain amount of access to the spiritual realm, a certain amount of access to the unseen, and or at the very least belief in the unseen. Um, and it's not just about putting crystals in your bra. I heard somebody say that recently, and it was really kind of interesting. She was referring to woo people and people who are really deeply spiritual putting stones in their bra. So I interface with spirit and I channel, and I am of service every single day, and I happen to not put crystals in my bra. So it's a lot more than just the external things. It's about that spiritual realm. I'm so glad that you said that, Lindsay, because that's exactly, for me, that's the biggest difference, is accessing that unseen. And for those of us who are aware of that, and it's very deeply real for us, I think it's really important to share that and to kind of stand in our truth and what we know and believe to be true, to help other people start to shift. And I think that's what Lindsay's saying as well. Yeah, so Lindsay's saying it's so much bigger than us, and at this time there's so much shifting going on, and for her being a spiritual worker to help others shift by connecting with source, spirit guides, and other aspects. That's exactly what it is. And so that's the biggest part. And like when people talk about, to me, energy workers and spiritual workers, that there is a confluence between those two, but there's going to be somewhat of a difference. Like a spiritual worker to me is talking about spirit, it's talking about the unseen realms, it's talking about somebody who's accessing, I love that word because that's exactly what it is. It's the realms, it's the interdimensionality of it. And I'm aware of how out there this is, but for me, it's not. For me, this is real and true, and I get proof of it every day. And people like Lindsay as well, and even Vu, who's on here with me, these things are real. And so that's what the purpose of this show is to really kind of dive deep. We'll be having guests. It's talking about the real talk, the real stuff, the depth and the meat of this kind of journey that we're all on. And like, yeah, Lindsay saying she rarely has crystals in her bra. It's really showing the way we're able to show up. I think more of us need to show up as leaders, because that's necessary to be able to hold our light up, because in myself doing that, and Lindsay doing that, and whomever, Vu doing that, and everyone else doing that, it's allowing people to know that your sense that there's something bigger than you is real, and it's true. And that for me that's where we're going to start shifting things, when we start to realize that there's so much we don't understand, number one. And number two, being able to access those things to heal. And I think in healing ourselves and healing each other, we can heal the planet. Because honestly, I think that's what this is all about. People are talking about awakening and the shifting of the planet and the shifting of polarity and the shifting of all this stuff. At the end of the day, what it's really all about is, to me, it's about healing. It's healing, shifting things, changing things, and it's happening anyway, but being able to stand up and be a leader in that, and be of service. That's what it's all about. When we're able to serve one another, then those people can serve each other, and it just helps everybody. So that's the point of this, and if I'm hoping to have a guest on next week, we're just finishing the details for that, and it's going to be every Thursday at 1 o'clock, and the idea is really diving in there, really the big deep stuff, not just, and I love crystals, and I think it's fine to put crystals in your brow, but it's deeper than that. Because I want people to know that what they're experiencing is okay, and it's normal, and it's okay. I want people to be able to have support, and that's what it's all about. When you know things before they happen, when you have dreams where you know you've been somewhere else, when you, oh gosh, there's just so many things. You feel all the feelings. You can literally feel like somebody else's emotions. You turn the news on and you know what happened in a certain case. When you're eating a steak and you can feel what that animal felt like, all of that stuff, this is real experiences, and there's a lot of us out there having these experiences, and that's the point of all of this, is to connect to each other and to hold that light up and just to be like, yeah, we can do this together, and we can heal together, and just allow for more shifting forward. Thank you so much for joining me, and for anybody watching this, if you're interested in being a guest, just contact me and we'll get that going. I'm really looking forward to this. We're also going to be putting it on YouTube, so you can follow on there. And thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.